Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Inside. Boy, is this pause screen dark. Not that the game is much brighter. So, I really have no idea how long of an experience this really is going to be. I suspect we are probably hitting a couple hours at most. Um, and then that'll be that. Limbo was not very much longer than that. Um, And there might be some achievement things that would maybe give you a reason why you'd want to play the game twice, but I don't know if I really would want to do that. Let's see. So we've got some kind of machine, and we've got a block up there that I think we're going to need to get up to this point, where you've been running away from some kind of organization of people that are shooting me or killing me in some other way. Yeah, I question what kind of machine this would be. It seems like it would be kind of like a hay baler, but oddly, maybe not a hay baler, maybe a hay debaler, if such a machine exists, to chop up or compost things. But I don't know why anything you would chop up would be something you would shoot up in the air like that. We had all these rats or chickens following us. I guess they're supposed to be chickens, although they could be rats. I guess they're chickens. And they're following me when I walk slowly, so I think our first horrific twist here is that we're going to walk all of these chickens over to this pipe, which is probably the intake pipe. Hmm. Hmm. Let's see if we can get on the other side of these. Hmm. And I think we are just... Yep. You're going to straight up suck up the thing and shoot them to hit the hay. There's really no reason why you would have hay up on a rafter like that, to my mind. I'm no expert in farming or anything like that, but it seems like it would be a waste of energy to put it up there in the first place. If you were going to have hay in a second loft, it would be a whole loft. It wouldn't just be a bar. Hmm. Okay. I think we have to race it. We'll just wait until these chickens are all here. So we can see there's a horrific twist here, as it is in that you're sacrificing chickens to escape with your life. Oh, it didn't seem like we even sacrificed too many. There may be like one dead chicken, and then the rest survived. So one dead chicken. Hardly a big sacrifice there. Yeah, I just don't know why you would have any kind of piece of equipment that big, that dedicated to sucking up any kind of grain or wheat or grass or whatever from the base to shoot it up into the air. It's very video gamey, to say the least. So slight twist, this kid is willing to sacrifice a small life, a small physical living creature to save his life, a less intelligent creature almost assuredly to save his life, which, I mean, that's just Darwinism. And it looks like, since this game has some cheap deaths, seems like it would be fairly easy to fall to your death there. Now we're back to carts of pigs, corpses. It's interesting many years later to try and think about whether I really would have wanted Limbo to have a few more puzzles. I probably would want a few more, but I don't know if I inherently would want it to have been twice as long with twice as many puzzles. And there is effectively, since Inside here is a spiritual successor, I may be sinking in the mud here. Since Inside seems to be a spiritual successor to Limbo, we are now getting Limbo twice as long. Of course, jumping when you're sinking in the mud does not mean that you can actually get out of the mud by any means. I'm seeing these worm-like creatures, and there were these weird, like, maggots in Limbo. Limbo was much more of a surreal fantasy experience, where this feels like this is slightly more realistic. So we're seeing what you could only describe as, like, really giant tapeworms crawl around these pig carcasses, and it looks like there might even be... No, yep, they're crawling inside and outside of these pig carcasses, so that might... That guy's alive. I was not expecting that. So I am uncertain if the pig is, like, yeah, I'm uncertain if the pig is really alive or if it's being controlled by a parasite. And so it seems like you can jump over this multiple times and need to. He seems to run a little bit faster each time you do. But definitely, this is supposed to be getting us to a different area. I suspect I'm supposed to be jumping up to this, but it doesn't seem like that's really letting me get up to that. So maybe I was supposed to just let that happen and pull that worm out of the pig, and that seems to have been enough. Yeah, it does not really feel like you're going to succeed on the first try in this game, whereas Limbo 1 definitely did feel like you had more of a chance of succeeding. It seems like this pig is more than happy to be walked backwards, which I don't believe that to be the case. So now we got some weirdness. We seem to be brain controlling all these humanoid creatures behind in the background, which might explain why this screen is so black, so zoomed out. So I think that means that guy's gonna fall. I don't know if that means we're supposed to bunch up the people or not. Okay. The X button seems to have him grab the helmet. I don't seem like I have a way to get out of this, though. So I guess it's probably these two, and then these four. Oh, we get them all working together. So we're having a reoccurring theme here. Slowly, we have used chickens. We've used a parasite-infected pig. We've used a non-parasite-infected pig, and now we're using some kind of brain-controlling technology that just seems to exist to make groups of people. This is an evolution, certainly, in doing something different compared to Limbo. There was nothing like that in Limbo at all. Let's see, left trigger, right trigger, left bump, right bump. And apparently it's you just have to hold the X button. Which, yeah, even a tired pig I don't think is going to be particularly happy with you dragging him around, and that he's going to just walk where you want it to go. So yeah, seems like a reoccurring theme of you're going to use people and you're going to sacrifice people for your own good, which at a certain level is still just Darwinism. Maybe you've shown such a behavior towards that already that that's why those other people were trying to shoot you and trap you, but it's really hard to blame anybody, any creature, any living being for trying to survive and thrive. Like, there might be extremes to that, and there's an argument specifically against humans, in that if you are surviving and thriving, there's no reason for you to kill like 1,000 other humans just to make your life a fraction of a percentage more comfortable. That's where you get into billionaires, trillionaires, oligarchs who are consistently, by the day, making decisions that are making their lives more comfortable at the expense of others, just because they are sitting on cash that they should be donating to charities, or because they are earning more cash on the backs of exploitative businesses, even if that is just through the process of investing in companies. But most animals do not have complex capitalist late stage capitalism. So yeah, and most animals don't depict animal societies don't depict decisions to like starve other members of their own species. Here we can just see a whole collection of people just standing there. It is very possible that this is some kind of dystopian world where people are mentally controlled. and used as beast of burden. So we've got a puzzle here. Certainly. It's a cart connected to a chain. And if pulling the cart doesn't get you high enough as a platform, then pushing the cart probably will. Yeah. This story does seem to feel more yeah, we're pushing it upward instead of there's a chair here, but it's kind of hidden and you can't do anything with it. Can't grab it. This does feel like it's telling more of a narrative, more of a world-centric narrative than Limbo, where Limbo really was just spoilers for the game, more around finding out that somebody had died in a car crash or been in a car crash. It was a simplistic personal story, while this is more of a world building story. Okay. So we've got all these birds. Are we supposed to do anything with these birds? Oh no. Seems like they fly away from you either time. They're not chickens this time. This does feel like you're pushing the edges of how big a puzzle area could be. Like, mm-mm. Hmm. This feels more like a lumber mill than a farm. And since we know we can die, let's just die. Like we've already died multiple times. That's eliminated any fear of dying from the game. So we can do that. If anything, I suspect there's a higher chance of there being a achievement around dying a bunch of times than there is an achievement around beating the game without dying once. Hmm. Hmm. So you jump here. I could probably make it that far if I spun it. You may have to get a specific angle on it too. So being slightly in the middle might be the right move. Nope. I'm overly complicating this. And you have fairly tight controls here. I'm I'm also noticing. Okay. Jumping this often and having it not break definitely makes it feel like it will never break. The angle's a little awkward here, but I guess you should just jump early. And here we have a big metal safe, which again doesn't quite make sense that there would just be a big metal safe here and that it would actually be able to balance. It's almost as if this world has been pre-set up with solutions to puzzles to help you. Even if this was a whole second floor, you would think the safe would collapse through the floor before everything else collapsed. And the rope there made that fairly obvious that that's what was going to happen. You're approaching almost Metroidvania level puzzles with this, and inherently I think that is where this story would go. It's also weird that you have this like secondary building and then a building all around it. It doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Yeah. Once you are in that realm of if there's anything over here. Yeah. Kind of once you are in that realm of making a side-scrolling platforming game with puzzles, you aren't that far away from making a Metroidvania style game. Slight difference, I guess, would be Metroidvania style games tend to have a lot more enemies that you're fighting in just a default attack action. Yep. We have another one of these weird energy orbs, which these definitely feel like they are the collectible. And I got another achievement for getting that. So keep an eye out for yellow wires, because that's obviously the indicator of whether there is a collectible. I wouldn't be surprised if there's only a small number of them, 3 or 4. Right. Now I'm just having characters walk to the right because I saw a bunch of characters on the far left of the screen. Doesn't seem like it's doing anything. Nope. It isn't. Walking to the right. Now there is also some lights in the on a panel there, and one of them just went green. And these guys seem to mirror their actions. So a light person seems to go the opposite direction, and a dark person. We need 2 people to 1, 2. I bet it's just a full reset like that. We need 2 people to stand on the 2 little baseball diamonds is what I would call them, but Switch otherwise. And they really seem to have no control over their brains otherwise, and just fall to the ground when there isn't something connected to it. So, yeah. Creepy, weird. I don't know how you would make an argument or even have that conversation around when is it acceptable to manipulate another being. At a certain point, it oddly does boil down to these characters not seeming to have sentience, even if they look like they're humans. So if they have no thoughts in their heads and no sentience, I guess the idea is it's perfectly acceptable. Or maybe it's never perfectly acceptable. I think I'm supposed to jump for the... Barely made it there. Like, you can see people marching in step back there, but then you can see a guard that seems to have more sentience. But yeah, if you were going to have... You can also see a bunch of security cameras. So it feels like a prison state. Or prison in general. But if something does have sentience, and you can control that sentience, it's hard to determine when would be acceptable, if ever, to do that. To control them. And nobody has ever made the best of argument when that actually is acceptable. If anything, it has just been a case of people being allowed to get away with quite a bit. People's own words obviously inform the actions of others, would be the right word to use. Yeah, inform. So at a certain point, if you write an inspiring book, or you become a leader who gives great speeches, you're influencing people, but you don't have direct control. But maybe direct control isn't the point to worry about, because advertising subconsciously, undoubtedly, affects and tricks a lot of people into buying a lot of things that they don't really need, or would have never even thought about buying in the first place, or don't even really want. There is definitely an argument to be made that advertising should be illegal. Like, there is an alternate reality where if advertising never existed, people would only purchase things they actually needed and knew they actually needed, and there would be a lot less of superfluous extra stuff in grocery stores and stores in general. Video games, at a certain level, would not exist if there was no advertising. So perhaps there is an argument for admitting that some objects are extra and unnecessary as far as the basic needs of life. And perhaps those things should be allowed to be advertised. But food, water, those are things everybody needs regardless. It's kind of silly to have commercials for food. It's kind of silly to have commercials for water. I'm noticing some of these elements definitely are trying to be throwbacks to the environment of Limbo, and remind people of Limbo. But if this is supposed to be potentially the world of Limbo seen from a living perspective, compared to Limbo being a experience of a person who is dying. It's funny you had to do that 3 times. Then, yeah, I don't know what the point there is. And very quickly we've jumped back from outside to inside, and it seems like we are going to do that quite a bit. Yeah. There is also a scenario, as I'm more talking in general and not actually commenting on the game as much at the moment. There's a scenario where potentially having direct and total control over sentient beings might be considered acceptable. At a certain point, a lot of what is right and wrong is just pure democracy in its for general consensus. Whoever gets the 51% vote that something is right and wrong usually tends to determine whether there is good or whether it's good or bad. And so I could see a society where everybody says we've built this like thoroughly tested computer artificial intelligence device that goes into the brains of every human and will actively freeze them and stop them from moving or swinging their arms if they try to do anything violent towards another, or if they or actively stops them from saying something negative. I could see a lot of people who often let a slip of their tongue hurt relationships, and people very well might line up towards a self-censoring uh, device that just says, hey, when you're about to say these words, let's just pause for a second and wait, take a breath. Maybe there's an override even where you can do it. There are scenarios like that where direct control might make sense. Of course, it's going to always be a slippery slope argument, because if such a technology did exist and started off for good, it very quickly could be used for bad too, and it's very difficult, if not impossible, to prevent it from sliding down that slippery slope towards something very bad. If a device stopped you from saying bad words and hurting relationships, it'd be very easy for some dictator somewhere to also make it stop you from saying anything negative or even factual about the evils of that dictator. If there was a device that could stop you from potentially punching somebody or hitting somebody, um, you could very easily see that device maybe force you to punch or hit somebody, or just stop you from doing anything at all and imprisoning somebody inside their body uh, temporarily or permanently. Of course, none of this is really about inside, and we've been going another 30 minutes, so this is a good point to wrap up. We're not getting really bespoke chapters. It does seem like we are mostly just doing puzzles, and the puzzles aren't even that long. This is very much like Limbo, frankly. Too much like Limbo for its own good. That by this point, by the 1 hour mark, it should have broken out to being more different visually, more different in the gameplay mechanic. There is definitely a different gameplay mechanic here, but it's a little too simplistic to be a breakout surprise or hit. Um, yeah, seems like they really are just going back to the same well for the same type of game. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.